Can you hear me, Sam?
I can. How about you?
Awesome. Yep, that's awesome. So we already have a bunch of people in the waiting room.
Of course. This is a fun topic.
Including Dan Satter.
Yeah.
actually says Dan Satter too. So,
Yeah, his dad is Dan as well.
okay.
Yep.
I'm letting him in now.
Yeah,
That way.
Dan's a great guy.
Yeah, I'm not sure when he's coming in, but uh there we go.
Good morning, Dan.
Can you see him?
Hey
I
guys.
can see him.
Oh, I'm not able to see him. Why am I not able to see him? Oh, that's why right there. Yeah, I'm gonna put everybody over here.
Dan,
So
Dan, I was thinking about you this week. My wife and I, while we were on a weekend trip, found something to watch on TV in the hotel. It was called The Foods That Built America. You may have seen the Titans that build America, the men that
Right.
built America. It's a continuing series. And when they got to the whole thing about Kentucky Fried Chicken, the actor that they have playing the young Colonel Sanders reminded me of you with his
Oh, okay.
goatee and everything. I'm like, oh, that's Dan. So you gotta go watch it now, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, definitely. I love my KFC.
Right.
and
So,
just so you guys know, the uh the host things, I thought that I had to do that to get you guys on here to be a host. You don't have to be.
Yeah.
So that's not a problem. And I upgraded my account for no reason.
Oh no. Oh no. I just got rid of my Zoom paid account because with my Google accounts, there's a Google Meets that's included for free. So
And I thought about doing this on Google Meets, but I don't know anything about it. So, and I could have, like you said, it was on for free, so I could have done that, but this seemed to be one of the better options for me. So,
mhm.
and of
Well,
course,
thanks for
I
your
just
sacrifice there, Dennis.
huh?
Thanks for your sacrifice
Uh,
for the profession.
well, this is probably one of my passions is to make sure that the residential design profession is up to snuff, that we're designing at full capacity and smart, not being stupid. Look, I've had to fix a lot of jobs when I was building and even as a designer, coming from people who thought they could design and didn't have a clue.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I'm I'm kind of a big I'm kind of big on making sure that people know what they're doing, and I want to make sure that if they don't know what they're doing, they have the ability to find it.
Mhm.
I love the AIBD, but I don't believe that it's doing everything it needs to. That's one of the reasons why I created this group, was because I felt like we could probably do it better because we know what we're looking for. So that's kind of where I was with it. Although I'm still a member of the AIBD because I like it. There's a lot of good resources.
Mhm.
They have a lot of good things, but and I think for the political realm to keep us, able to keep doing what we're doing,
Mhm.
that's great. But for the profession itself, I think that it's got to be more self-governed than it is right now. So that's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, well, AIBD, I'm a big, obviously I was president for many years and served on the board for over a dozen years. And that was what helped me as a young designer back in '88. I didn't know what I was doing. Went to the first convention in Houston, Texas, and I met an incredible group. I mean, it was kind of pre-internet, that's how you met
Yeah.
people. You went to the conventions and you got to know people. And I still have those relationships to this very day because of that, so yeah, obviously, things have changed, but technology's changed that. But and there's still a role for that because yeah, there are things that go on behind the scenes politically and helping us, legislatively,
Yeah.
that they can do that you can't do as just a group of people
Right.
necessarily on the internet.
Nope. But what you can do on the internet is share ideas and share information, and
Hmm.
it has become. I mean, so the group is close to 2,000 members right now,
Yeah, that's
and
great.
and And I have never paid a penny to get the group out. I started it on, I don't know if you guys know Entree Architects. It's a group of architects, and they were nice enough to let me in as an unlicensed designer. And it's all about marketing your architecture firm and how to grow it and everything. So I was really interested, but I noticed there was nothing on, what happens when I'm trying to design this particular feature. It was hard to get information. And I said, and then anytime you did get information, a lot of times it was all commercial. A lot of the architects on there would tell me how to do it on a commercial building or an industrial building. I'm like, this is a residential building. I'm stick building. This is a completely different monster. And I realized that a lot of times I was the one answering their questions when it came to the residential. So it became kind of nice to be able to do that. But I realized very quickly that, there's got to be a group that's specific to residential design for residential design professionals and for those who specifically deal with residential construction specifically. So I have worked hard to try to keep out those who just want to see pretty pictures or those who don't have any skin in the residential game. It's not been easy. And I still get some people in there that are, really wish I didn't let you in, but I've only banned one person out of almost over 2,000. I have
You must let
deleted
back in.
Huh?
You must let Sam back in.
I did.
Yeah.
No, I'm just actually Sam did get a talking to at the beginning, but but it was a good thing. It was just making sure that we all knew that what we were doing and making sure that the group was where we wanted it to go. And Sam's actually been a big proponent of that. So I've been very happy.
I'm really pleased with this group because Dan, you'll probably remember this. AIBD had a group on Facebook for years, and we were really active. I mean, it was almost every day someone posting a question or a comment, and then at some point it changed from a group to, just the AIBD page. And that had to do with, being found by more of the general population. It would show up. I don't understand all the ins and outs of it, but there was a reason why they decided to make a change. And you can still go in and make comments or whatever on the page, but it really dried up, so we don't have nearly as much interaction among AIBD members as we did years ago with that group until now, because a whole bunch of the people in this group are all AIBD members. I see, see, Ted Hake and Robert Kolb and lots of people making comments that people I've met at conferences for years.
Yeah.
And almost all of those guys who were in the upper echelon of AIBD, all three office members are a part of our group.
Right.
And I think the president is a part of our group. I'm not sure. Or
Bernie?
I think.
Yeah. I think Bernie's on here. Yeah, Bernie.
Yeah. And the new president, I can't think of his name.
Ben.
Oh yeah, Ben Table.
Yeah, I think he's on here.
Yeah, I imagine he is.
Yeah, but I do try to steer things towards what's currently going on. Now the problem is, so I'm Eastern Shore of Maryland. I'm on the beaches of Ocean City and stuff.
Yep.
That's where I design a lot.
Rehoboth,
Delaware, Ocean City, and all the way up the East Coast. I mean, I do designs all over. I've done designs in Spain, interestingly enough. But for the simple fact that I just, I keep local. I don't know all the answers. It's been a long time since I've had to design anything for a mountain area like what Sam may have to deal with, or, a super cold. I come from Erie, Pennsylvania. You'd think I'd remember how to design for the super, super cold. I don't. It's just been a long time. I haven't had to deal with it. And so, and I would not want to do anything in Florida just because I'm not down there. I don't do a lot. So I try to keep, but I also realize that every once in a while, I'll get a question from somebody who's a homeowner. They'll go to my page and they'll ask me if I can do something. And I'll start talking to them, find out where they're at, and I'll go and I'll search to see if I can find 2 or 3 people in that area and talk to them.
Yeah.
Now, like you, Sam, I have been fairly I've actually made it a practice to only go after AIBD members in those areas first. And if they don't answer, then I'll reach out. But
I've got a builder here who has a money partner that
mhm.
lives near Dan. And
Okay.
this guy is from here, so I've designed a couple of projects for him here. And then a few years ago, he called me and said, I just bought some land, Dan, it's in Winter Garden, so not terribly far from you. And he says, I want you to design 3 homes using the same floor plan, but just let's change up the elevations for me and my 2 sons. We're going to all live on the same property. So the plans are done. I sent them to them and they're ready to go get permits. And they're like, hey, this is all wood frame. The main floor should be all out of block. I'm like, well, how the hell would I know that? You didn't mention it. So they're now stressed out about what to do to not only change it, but get it engineered. And I said, call Mike Cassey. I'll send him the soft plan files. He can change it to block and he can engineer it. He'll engineer it for you. And you're going to have to pay an engineer anyway. So it's like, hey, I know a guy and he happens to be right in your neighborhood.
There you go. All right, guys, we have 31 people waiting to come in. I'm going to go ahead and admit them because it's like a minute before or 2 minutes before. So here we go. Everybody should be joining. Looks like we're getting a whole bunch of people in, and we've been recording. I'll be editing a lot of this out that we've talked about beforehand. Hello, everyone. If you think about it, go ahead and in the messages, what would be great is if you would put your name and email address. That way, when everything is done, I can go ahead and send out an email with a link to the videos as they're finished. Any kind of questions that maybe have or any resources. Of course, I'll be using it to sell you a lot of stuff over the next 6 months. No, I'm just joking. I'll make it only twice a year. No. My services, that's what I'll do. So.
Hey, before we start, can I just point out that I already received a message earlier from Robert Globe making sure I don't pick my nose during the presentation?
Oh, well, yeah, that would be good. If everybody could make sure of that, that would be kind of nice.
Those are the kind of friends I have.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, friends like that, that's great.
Well, once you get to know me a little bit more, you'll know that's kind of normal.
I am. If you see me looking up, it's because what I have in my office right now is 2 screens. I have my laptop down here that I can look right at the camera, and then up above it is a 42-inch TV that I use as my second monitor. So that's where I tend to look the most because that's where everybody's at. But if you guys have questions, and I keep adding more, I'm not sure. Wow. Okay. I think everybody's coming on. Right now we're at about 45. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. I'm thinking, so I see I've got a whole lot of people in the chat, and this is my first time hosting this, so please bear with me. I am usually pretty good at these things, so we'll see if that's, everything works on.
Dennis?
Yeah.
Just a question. How do you send you a question?
How do you send me a question? So you can get on the chat that's on your Zoom. On the bottom of the Zoom, if you go down there, there's a chat. You can send a question there. If you want to text me a question, if you're on the phone, my phone number is 443-786. Actually, I'm going to put it in the chat. My number is 443-786-5043. Of course, now it's going to blow up, but you can direct a question to me that way. I'll keep that open. You can try instant messaging me. That usually comes through on my phone as well. And through this, but there's so many ways, but the best way would probably be in the chat. I'm going to keep it up. and I'm going to try to make sure that I get through it. Probably should have been looking at it as I was going. And I am going to save the chat as well, so that way I can go through. We're going to start in about 5 minutes, I think. And I'm just going to keep admitting everybody as they come in until it tells me I'm no longer allowed. Okay. John, right? Yeah. That's your question there?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We will start off with that question. As soon as I start, I will put that question up for Sam. Sam, you could even, if you want, you can go on to the chat messages and look, but I will ask it out loud so that it's on the recording, and then you can go ahead and answer it. And we are currently at 55 people, which is pretty good. Oh. And for those of you who are curious about time zones, I post it as Eastern Standard Time. I believe wherever you're at, it corrects it to your time zone, just so that you know. This is what I have been finding out. So right now we are at 55. Nobody is ready to come in. Anybody else who wants to come in, I guess I can go ahead and make that happen as they come in. If everyone except Sam and myself can mute until we have questions, I would appreciate it. It would be a lot easier so we're not having background noise. If you have food, please share. If you have drinks, please share. Yeah. Actually, Rebecca, that's exactly why I I saw you and I was like, oh, I just wanted to tease you for a second. Sorry. Questions again can be put into the chat. I will try to look at it. I've already got 3, I think. So we'll go from there. And at this point, I want to introduce Sam Morgan. Sam, if you could come on and just say hi.
Hi.
I was gonna say, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm at the top. I can see me right next to you.
Oh, okay, there you are. I see you now. I had to move the admitting thing, so Sam, we are gonna go ahead and start. And since this is a question and answer thing, I'm just gonna go ahead and start shooting off some questions for you. And the first one is from John Vanderward, and it says, how does it work to sell plans from Ontario, Canada? Our plans are compliant with the Ontario Building Code. So go ahead.
So on that one, there's 2 options that I can see. I mean, number one, most of the publishers will have on their websites, and I'm going to be answering these questions assuming that you're selling with publishers. I mean, anybody can sell plans on their own website and sell what they want. I have found that trying to sell directly through my own website and spending money on advertising, whatever, it hasn't been good for me. You know, I'll sell 100 plans with a publisher for every one I sell on my own. So most of the publishers are going to have minimum requirements. And if you were to go to most of them, I went and looked at one the other day. I think I posted this a few weeks ago. They want things minimum to the 2015 International Residential Code. There are still a few places around the country that are, enforcing the 2012 code or even the 2009, but most of the country seems to be 2015 or above. Here in Utah, where I mainly practice, we're still on the 2015, and we only adopt the code every other cycle. So this coming summer, we'll be on the 2021 code. So I would think, a designer in another country would have to make sure their plans meet that minimum code that the publishers require. But I know of at least one publisher that's based in Canada, And I worked with them for a time, and I asked them the question in reverse. What do I do if one of your local clients buys one of my plans? And they said, oh, that's no problem. We have local services that will do conversions for us, to convert your code notes to Canada. And they asked, would you be interested in doing the same for us? If a Canadian designer, sells a plan in the US, would you go through their plans and update code notes? So there's some options there, I think.
Great. Just to add on to that, I know that I have been asked to design in Canada, and when I went through there, one of the things that they said was to get their code book. So a lot of times, if you're going to sell plans on there and you tell somebody that, hey, for Canada, you might want to add steps. I don't know if that's possible, Sam. Is it possible to add like directions if you're buying this from Canada, this is what you could do to help yourself or anything like that? Or is that just not something that you would worry about?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would think that I would just make it very clear to the publishers that I'm working with of here's what my plan is designed to, and then they need to notify somehow their potential buyers. All plans on our side are designed to this minimum. And there's been a few instances where I've had a note that relates to let's say the 2015 code. And a buyer has come back and said, hey, you've got this one note on the plan and they don't enforce that here because, we're still on the 2012 code, or, hey, I need this added because we're on the 2018 code. And in those instances, like, okay, can take me 10 minutes to make a buyer happy instead of pissing someone off. So I'll just go make the change and send it back to them.
Okay.
If it was major changes, then it's like, okay, I got to charge you for that. I can't spend 5 hours making changes to something that is a generic plan and not a specific to your location.
I can understand that. I am going to ask you this question and then mute myself because I have a phone call coming in. So Michelle Martel asks, is this specifically for architects? I'm an interior designer with a degree and just wanted to see if this was something I could do logistically. So go ahead.
I would think that anyone that can produce a full set of construction drawings could sell stock plans. So, again, the publishers are all going to have a minimum what's required on a set of plans for them to be willing to sell it. That's going to be floor plans and elevations, fully dimensioned. Most of them are going to want to see electrical plans, although some of them don't require that. A roof plan, a floor framing plan. Now, I don't specify any kind of structural elements. My plan will show, hey, there's a beam required here, but they'll need to go and have a structural engineer review it to tell them what size that beam is. Same with footings. I'll have footing and foundation plan, but no details on what size footing, what rebar, et cetera, because that's going to change based on, climate zone by seismic zone. And, on a plan that you're selling all over the country, you just can't spend the time going and making those changes over and over and over again. Again, same kind of thing. If some buyer came to me and said, hey, my city says everything on this plan is great, except they would like this note added. If it's something simple, I'm going to go do it for them. Otherwise, I just direct them, hey, you need to find a local structural engineer to review and stamp this plan. So did that answer the question well enough? If there's a follow-up to that, shoot it in the chat and I'll be happy to answer some more.
I hope you don't mind, since Dennis is out, I'll just ask my question right out. What's the typical commission charged by a publisher?
So that varies by publisher. I work with 5 or 6 different ones, and the lowest that they pay, the lowest from one particular one is 30% to the designer, and on the high end is 50. There's one publisher I work with that pays 50% on everything. A couple of the other ones pay 50% if you are, if that plan is sold exclusively with them. One of the publishers, probably one of the ones I've worked with the longest, they have an interesting, some clauses in their contract. They pay 35% across the board, which I would say 35% is probably the typical with most of them. But this publisher pays 35. If you sign an agreement with them for a minimum of 5 years, they pay you a 5% extra. And if you're an AIBD member, they pay 5% extra. So you can get 50% with them if you're selling a plan exclusively, or 45% just because of those extra things you decided to do. So, but anyway, so between 30 and 50% is kind of the range.
Are you going through all the questions? I'm sorry, I've been.
No, I probably have missed a few.
Okay.
So,
did you do the liability insurance one?
no.
Okay. So Jennifer Kretschner, and I'm sorry if I Kretschmer, I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong. How are you handling your liability insurance? My carrier will not allow me to sell stock plans if I am not also providing standard services.
Okay, that took a while to figure out because most every insurance company I talked to said the same thing. If you're selling stock plans and you're selling all over the country, we don't want to touch you. I did find one year and a half, 2 years ago that, after a lot of back and forth with the underwriter, they agreed to it. I showed them all the disclaimers on my stock plans, et cetera, so they could see their risk was a little lowered. They finally agreed that they would write a policy, and it was, I think it was about $3,000, little over $3,000 for a year. And then a few months ago, that came up for renewal, and they doubled the rate. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. I'll take my chances. So, I can't. It was almost $7,000. I'm like, yeah. So I'm shopping again now.
Yeah. All right. So with that, the next one is, did you answer? Now, she had another question about what the typical commission charged by publishers was.
Yes, we were answering that.
Okay.
That's what we were talking about when you came back.
All right. Did you answer Vicky Wooster's, how do you handle energy code requirements since they are climate zone based?
Right. And Vicky should be recognized as the professional designer who signed my membership for AIBD. She was the president of AIBD when I became a member. Anyway, that is another item that on my standard plans, I don't do, anything that refers to insulation will see res check. And that's something that they'll need to do locally. It's the same here with my local custom clients. I don't do res checks. I don't do manual D&J. I don't do gas line diagrams, even though most places require that. I think a local professional should do that. So in my custom client contract, it says these are the things I exclude that I don't do. And a res check is so simple that, around here at least, you call any insulation company and they'll provide you a res check as long as they're bidding on the job. So.
Wow. Okay. So Royal Mortier says, we're a publisher. We're also a code consulting and engineering firm. So we handle all the code updating and engineering as part of the sale. So that might be somebody to keep in touch with for everybody. Sequel Architecture says, for the most part, I see plans geared towards the suburban model. Is there a market for urban infill design, narrow lot, smaller footprint?
Yeah, I think there's a market for everything. I mean, people, are just going to go to a website to get ideas, and they're going to find the one that they fall in love with and buy it regardless of what it is. I mean, I get quite a few homes here that I design for local clients. And I should say anything I design here locally eventually is a stock plan. So if I designed your home a year ago, today it's online somewhere, and I make sure my clients understand that. they need to know that this is my property, not theirs. They're just paying for the rights to use it. So, I sold plans as small as 1,200 square feet. And I sold a plan. This one was kind of funny. It was just a year or so ago. I finished a home that's a little over 11,000 square feet, has an indoor basketball court, a theater room under a 3-car garage. And I said, let's just throw it out there and see what sticks. Most of the publishers don't really care about homes that big because they just don't sell many of them. But I know one that says, sure, well, let's market it. And within a month or so, we sold it. I look at the information on the buyer, and I remember at first I saw the order come in with the plan name and said, who buys a stock plan that's 11,000 feet? I mean, I was kind of shocked that I had sold it. And then I looked closer, and the buyer lives about 3 miles from me. Someone in the next town over. And then I look a little closer, and I see the last name, and recognize the last name as one of the local prominent polygamist families here in Utah. And I'm like, oh, that's the guy that buys an 11,000 foot because he's going to have his 11 kids and 45 grandkids living in the house with him.
Yeah.
So anyway, my answer is, if I would market whatever you got. If you've got a great design with great photographs or great renderings, get it out there, because you just never know who's going to stumble upon it and say, yeah, that's a great design. And people always have the option of coming to you and ask you to modify things a little bit, make it a little bigger, make it a little smaller to fit on their lot. So
that said, Kathy, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name because it's just not going to happen. And she, just to give you everybody an idea, she is very big on the group chat, and she has a lot of good answers and a lot of good questions. So she says, I typically provide all my own structural framing plan, foundation details, and notes. Do I need to remove that from plans listed for sale?
You would definitely want to have that removed for, your floor plans or elevations that you're marketing. So Dennis, how do I share my screen?
Let me see. I think I have to let you do that.
I'll show a typical, here's what goes to a publisher. I mean, they're very stripped down.
Okay, I did that. Let's see. One participant share at a time. I want to let somebody else do it. Why is it not going to do that?
Oh, I think I got it.
Okay. Yeah, try sharing your screen. It's down on the bottom. If it doesn't let you, let me know.
Right. I got to find the right screen.
There you go.
Okay. So you got a floor plan here now?
Yep.
So there we go. That's a typical what I'll send to a publisher. The outline of it is dark lines, so I'm designing in soft plan. So I got to go in and tell it when I make a PDF or a JPEG to do everything in solid black. Obviously, that wouldn't be how my plan set is printed. Room sizes on all the rooms, etc. So there's very little detail. I even had a publisher get after me one time early on as I started doing this because I'd forgot to go and take all the window and door sizes off. These should be really generic. And, if someone wants to know what size the windows are in bedroom 1 or 2, they can ask, but they don't want you. And of course, that's so people aren't, coming in and looking at their website and then just paying someone to rip off your plan. So any of that kind of info that you would have on your plan set normally, you would take it off to be marketing it. When I'm selling a plan, I may have a note that says, here's a beam. That beam's supporting, the front porch or whatever. But sizing it, and there's no reason that you can't if you're doing everything, with the prescriptive code, and that's allowed wherever it's going to be built. The only downside to that is you now have to go through and update that for every location that you sell in. And to me, there's just not enough money in the sales to say, okay, now I have to spend 3 extra hours, 5 extra hours going through that sale in Arkansas and what changes from where I designed it in Utah to what they're doing in Arkansas. I just have a disclaimer. And when I have a buyer I send out a license agreement that they have to sign. And in that license agreement, it also notifies them that if it's required where you're building, you will need to have this reviewed and stamped by an engineer. We don't provide any structural details. Some areas are so lax. If you build in a lot of areas of Texas, they don't care. Your builder can size and design all that as he builds. Matter of fact, my plans used to say, and this was because here in Utah, everything is stamped. You don't get a building from, you don't get past the front desk if they don't see the engineer stamp on there. And so my plans have always said these plans must be, reviewed, stamped, and signed by a structural engineer. After selling enough in areas that didn't require it and having people come to me and say, hey, they don't require that here, but they're going to make me do it because your plans say I need to. I finally changed the wording on that says where required by the permitting jurisdiction, these plans may need to be reviewed, signed, and stamped by a local structural engineer.
Makes sense.
And that just takes all of that off of me. I just tell people up front, I do not provide structural design. You'll need to hire an engineer. And the nice thing is that also shifts some of the liability to an engineer if there's ever a problem with this home after it's built. So get rid of that screen. We'll share again later if we have something else to show.
Okay. Lyle, for a list of publishers, like you ask, if they have one, I'll ask them to post it in the group, and we can do that through the guides. If you go to the guides in the group, there's a thing for stock plans, and if they have a list of ones they want to share or can share, I will have that. I'll get that created and we'll put that there. So
yeah, I think you made a guide for that after I made a post back around Thanksgiving, yep. And in that I listed all of the publishers that I work with all their contact info. If there are others out there that I'm not aware of, I'd love to know about them.
I can imagine. All right, so Ethan Orions has asked, you mentioned floor framing and footing plans. Would you want to have a recommended size and note to call for an engineer to verify, or just leave out sizes altogether?
I have personally left out sizes altogether. I used to locally go through. I mean, if I knew that we're using traditional I-joists or whatever, I would call out for my local clients. It's easy enough to go to a span chart and see what that's going to be. But I got enough times where an engineer would say, hey, I got to change that. And now I need to go change my drawings. So I just leave it off. Let the engineer deal with that, whether it's my local client or someone buying in Arkansas.
Okay. Garland has 2 questions here, and not sure. Garland says, first question is, how much does a typical plan sell for? And second question is, have you had trouble with other stock plan designers?
The plans are kind of priced in tiers. So, obviously small plans are going to be a lot less expensive than a great big plan. I can tell you that over the last few years, my average royalty is between $500 and $600. So every time a plan sells, I mean, if I have a lot of things like garages, a 2-car garage, that'll be a stock plan. Those are only going to pay, $150, $200. But then you get those larger, like that 11,000 foot house that, probably paid $1,200 or $1,500 royalty. So, $500-$600 is probably a good range for how much I'm getting. And, you figure if the average royalty is between 30 and 50%, those plans are selling for, $1,000 to $1,500 on average. So the publisher makes a pretty good chunk of money, but they're doing most of the work. They're doing all the marketing, all the, emailing back and forth with clients with questions, which I would rather they did than, I would much rather let them earn their money doing all those things and me just having to fulfill orders.
Yeah, actually, if you have a set of plans that you get $500 for 10 times, well, you just paid for that set of plans being designed the first time. So,
right.
That's great.
I'll answer the second question. And I'm assuming what we're getting at is, someone accusing you of, stealing their ideas or whatever. I've had a couple of times this is one nice thing about, having been involved in AIBD for so long, is I know a lot of the AIBD members that have been stock plan sellers for a long time. A few years ago, I had some local client come to me with ideas they found online, and someone comes to you with 4 different plans and said, God, I really love the master suite ideas here, but I like the outside look of this. And I like the, great room idea here. Is there a way to mash those all together in something new? Like, well, we can look at that and see if we can come up with something new that's not stepping on someone else's toes. But the person that comes with a plan like, oh, I love this plan, but it needs a 3-car garage and the master bedroom needs to be a little bigger. No, I tell them, go and buy that plan. I had someone just a year or 2 ago came to me with, have me pull up on the computer their plan. I immediately recognize it as Dan's style. Dan's got a very particular style. You can tell it was a Mediterranean style. And I said, here's his phone number. Call him and buy that plan and ask him to do the modification you're asking for. I had another one, AIBD member that sells a lot of stock plans. I've had people come to me with their plans. I know what his ID numbers are on all the different major plan sites. They pull up that and like, oh, no, I don't want to touch that. That's a friend of mine's. Here's his phone number. He'll help you. The one time that I had what you might say is, a problem, I had a builder whose wife is an interior designer and they wanted to do their own house. They came to me with an AutoCAD file of their floor plan that they liked. They needed someone else to take the idea of and make it buildable. They had, she could draw a great floor plan, but couldn't put a roof on it, couldn't figure out how to do the second floor that was all built into the roof, and said, okay, just start with our floor plan and come up with something. And they're showing me photos of what they want the outside to look like. We finished that plan. I put it online, and, sometime over the next year, I get an email from a good friend of mine with my floor plan and his floor plan. And he says, hey, what the hell, dude? And I like, okay, this is great that this is a friend of mine and not his attorney. And I just said, hey, I'll pull that plan from every publisher today. Of course, I asked him, when did you design that? I did that 2 or 3 years ago. And he's like, oh, I'm 7 or 8 years ago. I said, okay, we pull it immediately. I'm not stepping on your toes. If you told me that's older than mine, that's good enough for me. So luckily for me, that's been the closest I've come to any kind of accusation from someone. And I was just lucky that it was a friend. Okay, I'm going to jump in. Well, it looks like Dennis is muted for a second. I see Jennifer asked, do you register your designs or your architectural works with the Copyright Office? That's on my to-do list. You're going to be more protected and better chance of an attorney taking on your case if you do have a clear copyright violation than if you don't. I mean, you automatically have a copyright, by producing a new work. You just got to document when you did it and be able to prove you did it before someone else. But having an attorney willing to take on your case and go sue somebody if you don't have it registered, a little bit harder. So one of these days we will spend more time doing that, but we're so busy creating new plans and getting renderings done and getting them out to publishers that I haven't done as much of that as I should. I have a few. Some of mine we have gone through and do it. It used to be on my to-do list on, like Saturdays, add a new one to the, get another one registered. But the last few years I've been working every Saturday as well. Okay. Okay, Larry asks a good question, and I think this is something that I answered in the post I made a few months ago. Larry says, do you have construction sets for each plan that you send to the publishers? And the answer for that is yes and no. When I first started doing this, I started working on stock plans in 2008 and 9 as everything kind of fell apart in the market. Up until 2008, I was a custom home builder. I drew plans just for myself. So I built everything that I drew. I wasn't out designing for other people. And then everything fell apart and I said, I've got a new career path. I'm just going to draw plans. And at that point, when there was really no work, I was just drawing stock plans to build a portfolio. So excuse me, I started taking new designs and creating full documents for them. And now that I've been doing it for a few years, I realized how much time I wasted on that. Because why create a complete set of construction documents if that plan never sells? So on new stuff, you know, if I were to look at my portfolio of a few hundred plans that we have now, more than half of them have full construction documents ready, just because I spent so much time early on doing that. But now I would say, oh, come up with a new design, focus on the renderings and the marketing material. And you can even, I see a few designers that have on their, you know, renderings or photos, it'll say, you know, concept plan only, please allow, you know, 2 to 3 weeks for delivery. So, you know, I wouldn't spend as much time doing full construction documents on a new design until it was sold. So let's see. Let's see what another question is. This is so much easier when Dennis is following the questions. Okay, so Ryan's asking a question about, this was a comment that one of our members put on the group the other day about that he got come after by a big company for a copyright claims, even though he had created a new thing, you know, independently, or at least that was the comment. He says, have you seen anything like this from the larger companies? Absolutely. You know, the big companies that, you know, have huge staffs and are cranking out lots of stock plans probably have people specifically there just to be monitoring plans and to see if it looks like any of theirs. And, you know, if it does, I would go after one. If you know, at least I would do what this friend of mine did. If I found another plan that looked familiar, I'd be reaching out to them saying, hey, that looks just like one of mine. You know, so I haven't personally had anyone come after me other than this one. Haven't had any of the big companies, but of course I don't spend a lot of time looking at other people's designs and saying, oh, I can come up with something that looks just like that or similar to that. Let's see.
Hey, Sam, could I jump in there?
Yes, please. Please.
Since I've been, one of the things is we've had a lot of copyright cases. Usually the scenario that usually happens, I found for us over the last 30 years, is that we sell a plan to someone, to a client, the builder builds it for the client, the builder likes the plan, and then the builder reuses it or sells it to someone else without obtaining a license. And that's always the biggest thing in dealing with customers, is that making them understand that they think they're buying this tangible set of plans, but what they're buying is a license to use that and to use it only one time. The problem is, like other design firms, some of them are the very big players they would sell it and you could build as many times as you want, which I think to me, that's like, you know, cutting off your own throat by doing that, because then your own plan is in competition against you once you've released it. So it's important to convey, and we make sure before we release a set of plans that we actually have them go online and do a DocuSign and acknowledge that they're building it. We attach it to a legal property. What's the address they're going to build it on? And we make them acknowledge it's a one-time use. But usually the copyright cases we usually find, we're usually exactly like I'm saying. I actually would have a client who bought the plan for me and would complain because the builder took the plan down the street. They're upset because the same plan was built down the street, you know, through their builder or whatever. That's where a lot of those kind of things happen, more so than just, I mean, you could come up with your own design that looks strikingly similar to someone else's on your own, you know, because like, you know, someone made a comment about they wouldn't allow them to register because it wasn't original or unique enough, which I don't believe that's true. But I mean, if you could show, usually when you go to a copyright case, there's no paper trail. Like if someone did a copyright case and if they really created it, they should be able to prove, like, here's my original sketch, here's the process I went through and the different drawings. Usually they aren't able to produce anything like that. You know, they just, here's the final plans, but there's no design process. So that's why it's important to document that. I mean, I'm a dinosaur, so I still sketch by hand originally. I know a lot of you guys may not do that anymore, but still, even if you're doing, CAD drawings in a process, make sure you're saving those PDF drawings as you're going through the process. So if you ever did get an instance where you were being, approached by another firm for a copyright case, you can document the process you went through and the steps, the preliminary steps in it.
Yeah, I do very similar. I mentioned, I make every buyer sign a license agreement. I do have, just because this is fairly common in the industry, I have pricing for one-time use and unlimited use plans. I don't do unlimited use with paper plans. I'm trying to discourage people from buying paper plans because there's lower profit in it. But if someone wants to buy, a CAD file and use it one time and they want CAD because they, can print it and do whatever themselves, fine. If they want to pay a little extra and be able to use it over and over and over again, which is more often going to be a builder, it's not a lot of money, but it is extra. So it's a little more profit margin there. But they will sign that license agreement that says this is a one-time use or this is an unlimited use every single time. I don't go as far as to get the project location on there on my form, just because so many times people are making a purchase and they don't know where they're going to build it yet. So, and by the way, those forms that I use were forms that you can get through AIBD. If you're a member, they're free. Dan, you've been around long enough to remember the HPMA, the House Plan Marketing Association, that was part of AIBD. Those were forms that they created, and I've just modified those a little bit to suit my needs. So probably 75% of the wording in there was from those original documents, and then I've added a whole paragraph: architectural only. These do not include any kind of structural elements, just so people know ahead of time what they're buying. You're buying the rights to use it, and you need to go hire an engineer. So anyway,
So
yeah,
I'm gonna assume
I just answered the last question.
You did.
Yeah,
I don't think it was the last one.
one of the last ones. It's just,
Oh, okay.
is the
Yeah.
license agreement something you found online?
Yeah.
Look at that. I inadvertently answered a question without trying.
So did you answer the question underneath it that are 3D renderings essential, realistic, or colored?
Personally, I think so. And really, this just from my own personal experience. When I started, I think I was 2014 when I sent the first plans to publishers. I was doing renderings in SoftPlan. And I got to admit, I don't have the eye for color and furnishings, so I was just doing what any guy would do. Yeah, I need a couch there. I need paint on the wall. So I was doing soft plan renderings and my sales were so-so. I mean, I made a couple $1,000s the first year and then a few thousand more the next year. About 4 years ago, we invested in Lumion software, which is going to get you a much higher resolution and more realistic rendering, and our sales took off. I also, about the same time, invested in a drone, and I go take pictures every summer of, homes that are done, landscaped, etc., and send those to publishers as well. So they have really good renderings and really good photographs. I'll share my screen again and show you a local one that's one of our, pretty good seller. So matter of fact, it's the same floor plan that I was showing earlier. There's the rendering that we did. My daughter is really good at coming up with some themes. This house is named the Cougar. And the reason being is we did this as a donation to our local HBA, who every other year builds a house in conjunction with BYU. One of the local universities here, and the house gets sold. It's all donated labor and materials. The house gets sold and the money gets put into a scholarship fund for BYU. And of course, BYU's mascot is the Cougars and their colors are blue. So we got all the BYU blue colors. There's interior renderings that have little BYU memorabilia all over the house. Of course, they didn't take it. They sold the house and someone else picked the colors. So there's the finished home. Another thing that we do, we don't do this on all our plans, but we do it on, when we have time. We don't do it on all of them just because it's so time consuming. Let's see, there we go. We'll do So we'll do a little animated fly through on some of our plans. That's one of those, my daughter, when she gets time to do more of them, she does, but that's just a handful of our plans that we have things like that.
Nice. So we have a lot of comments on here about what you do, but Jennifer says, looking at economy here, I sell stock ADU plans that include permit expediting from my website. I charge half my standard ARC fees for a custom project, but it's still thousands of dollars. But that is still, hold on a second. So with your $500 average, you would have to sell about 15 of yours for the fee I get for one. I'm still offering service that can take 10 to 20 hours. So how many plans do you sell in a year to make it worth it?
Well, we're growing every year. I've been lucky that over the last couple of years, since we've, really after we invested in Lumion and started doing really good renderings, is when our sales started taking off. And we've just about doubled in the amount of sales every year for the past 3 or 4 years. And last year, of course, our best year. Last year was crazy for everybody in our industry. And we did a little over 200 last year, 200 sales. I wish I could say 200 with a K and a dollar sign, but about 200 last year. And our goal this year is to increase to 250.
Okay. Vicky Wooster wants to know that when you do provide CAD files, and tell me if you already answered this one, do you provide it in SoftPlan, in AutoCAD, or in something different?
I have let publishers know that we can offer it in AutoCAD or SoftPlan, but almost everybody wants it in AutoCAD. That's so industry standard that almost every buyer is asking for DWG. We did recently have one. I just found out a few days ago that this guy has now disputed his charges with his credit card company. He ordered CAD files. He specifically asked what the format was going to be. We told him DWG. And then he comes back to the publisher later, pissed off that his free CAD program, I don't even remember what it was called, won't open DWGs. We sent him DXFs. I sent him a PDF and said, hey, we don't want you walking away with nothing. Sorry that your free software won't open these, but now they've just disputed it. And it was a small garage, and the publisher and I have talked enough times that it's like, there's not enough money in the sale to fight with the guy. Let's just give him his refund and walk away, which was fine with me. And then I sent him an email that says your license that you signed is now revoked. You cannot build this plan using the PDF, or, you don't have a license anymore to use this because it hasn't been paid for.
The most you can do.
Right. So I would say if you're using something, you're using SoftPlan or Chief or whatever, let the publishers know. I can export to a AutoCAD file and send it that way, or you can also notify people we have it in this format just in case someone wants it. Me personally, I've never sold a CAD file in anything other than AutoCAD. No, nobody's asked. Mm-hmm. Nobody's ever asked for SoftPlan.
That's interesting. I actually have a engineer that bought SoftPlan just so that he can share files with me, so he can be twice as fast to get me my drawings back when I hire him.
Can you ask him if he can get licensed in Utah?
I'll ask him.
That would make my life easier.
It does.
Right. Don't tell any of my engineers I said that.
Hopefully there's none on here.
Right.
So we have so Jason Richard Balkins had wrote Jason Comer asked about you describing the process from when the customer buys until you get paid, what emails and steps happen. I'm going to let you decide if that's something you want to answer on here, or is that too much?
Well, I don't mind.
Okay.
Let me pull up an email from we had a sale from someone just the other day, so let me find. Some of the publishers I think have a little easier process than others. None of them are difficult for sure, but let me find that one from just a day or two ago. Okay. I will share my screen again. Okay, so now it should be looking at an email, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so here's, someone places an order. This is what I get on my end. First, they want you to, show that you've received it. So they have records. So you click here and it'll pull up an email and you just hit send. This, tells me what their plan number is, the name of that plan. They're ordering a PDF with a one-time use. And, they want the standard basement. So there's no fee there, and they want it in right reading reverse. So they're paying extra for that. This particular publisher also has I guess we'd call it a designer portal on their website. So I can go in. Matter of fact, I think I have that right here. So here's this client. I can go in here to view all that information right on their website. Gives me more information. The nice thing is it also tells me right here, oh, that's how much you're going to receive next month. So for that one sale with their one modification, hey, that's $600 next month for what's going to take me a couple hours to do. As far as receiving the money, all the publishers pay one time a month. So, if you hit the sale the day after their cutoff, you're waiting a month or so, maybe a little more for their, your payment to come. If you hit that the day or two before their cutoff, it's like, that'd be a couple of weeks, I'll get that money. So, but you're going to get once a month, and most of them now have gone to just electronic payments. You're not waiting for checks in the mail. They just do a wire transfer. If you opt in, they give you the option to do wire transfers, which I've done with all of the ones that offer it. I'm getting wire transfers. I wish they all would do that instead of me walking out to the mailbox all the time to look in there and see. The nice thing is with the ones that do wire transfers, they're pretty much all within the same couple of days every month. So I know, sometime around the 20th, I'm going to have money from this publisher. Sometime around the 15th, I'm going to have money from this other publisher.
All right.
Hopefully that answered that question.
So you've already answered whether you like Lumion over Twinmotion. Pretty sure that you like Lumion. You say it a lot.
Well, only because that's what I know. I know several designers that use Twinmotion, and I've seen their renderings, and I think they put out every bit as good of renderings as Lumion. And as I understand, Twinmotion's a little cheaper. So, but I don't have any personal experience with it. I've never used it. Lumion was kind of really the big name out there when I started. So I'm like, well, I might as well buy the one that, is the big guys. And lucky for me, I had my daughter-in-law who's got some background in interior design and has a real eye for it. So before I spent several $1,000s on Lumion, I asked her, do you want to work for me? Do you want to help me? And if so, I'll buy it and I will pay you to learn it. And you're now the rendering guy for our company. So that really helped me out, was having that. And then of course, everybody's heard me talk about the other rendering company that a friend of mine started in the Dominican Republic, who's helping us to get more and more done faster, because my daughter can only turn out so many a month. And I want to get more plans to publishers faster.
Okay, so we're going to take a couple more of these questions. Some of these have already been answered earlier. One of the ones that Jennifer asked, does your publisher help with disputes if someone sues you? Are they basically, or do they back you up? Do they get into the fight with you?
It's never come up, so I don't have a good answer for that. But I would think, since the buyer has purchased through the publisher, that they would have to be in the middle somehow. Now, I would have to go and look at my contract with the publisher, and I'm sure that most of them have some kind of, indemnification or hold harmless clause in that contract that also says I'm going to protect them if they get sued for something that's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's never come up. So I can't, I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay.
Dan, you got an answer? A better answer?
Well, from the dispute, someone like another designer, I'm assuming, or architect that sues you for copyright infringement. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about. Are we talking about if they sue because of a default in the plans?
Couldn't really say either way.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a customer who doesn't like their plans, something on their plans, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, they try to help some, but usually they're all done by credit card. So usually it's held like, Sam had already mentioned, it's like the incident with the guy with being a pain because they'll come up we'll have a lot of that. Like we won't give refunds, our policy because you get people who will get your plan, especially a CAD file. So they've got your CAD file, then they say they don't want it. And meanwhile, they've already got all your intellectual property. There's no way to retrieve that. So we don't give any kind of a refund. We exchange. But when it comes down to it, it's usually the credit card companies and usually the customer's always right.
Mhm.
So, but I mean, your publishers usually try to help you some, but it's limited, I mean, if it's actual lawsuit, I don't think they would probably help you. But if the customer was going to do that, a good attorney is going to sue everybody involved, so they'd probably go after the publisher because if they bought the plan from them, that's their direct contact. So they probably sue them as well, unfortunately.
Right.
But again, I'm like Sam, I haven't had an incident like that happen.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna ask. Well, first off, Jennifer did mention that's what she was talking about, the customer's lawsuit. So that was good that we answered that. So Christopher says, do you have all your plans available flipped, or is flipping plan an additional service? From the looks of the one that you did, it looks like they're additional services.
Yes. Yeah, that's always, it's not always, it's if you choose to offer it, would be an additional fee. The nice thing is, and this was a hard thing for me the very first time it happened, and there's a few local designers here that I've helped get started selling stock plans who the first time it happened to them, they call me pissed off because, you have someone that orders a plan with a right reading reverse and a walkout basement as an option. For me, I have those as a standard price on everything. So whether it's a small house or a big house, I know it's, $195 to do a right reading reverse. And it's no harder for me to do that in soft plan on a small house versus a big house. So I just think it's easier to just have a flat fee so the publishers can always quote that and collect the money. The first time you do that, every time you make a sale, the publisher keeps part of that money. So they're charging the person $195. I now have to go spend a couple hours, making that change, but I don't get $195. I might get $87, right? And the first time that happened, I'm like, hey, wait. I need to make my, enough money to cover my time. And then you have that discussion with a publisher and find out, okay, every future buyer of that plan with a right reading reverse is going to pay for it. They don't need to know you already have it available. And so now it's, I made $87 for doing nothing. I just got to go to the right folder on my hard drive and pick the right plan. And that happens frequently once you've had some plans that have been popular sellers. I have a bunch of them where I could say, I have a right reading reverse with a walkout basement, with a daylight basement, with a full basement, with a crawl space. And that's just extra money you make on that future sale. So, but it took that happening a few times to say, the first few times I'm getting screwed. And then it's, wait, I'm making extra money for not doing much work.
Okay, so this is going to be the last question. And this is from Kathy Swersill. That's how you say her name. She's made sure to put it on there for me. Thank you very much, Kathy. As the architect or designer, would we have a contract with the purchaser typically?
The only thing that I do personally is what I've mentioned several times is I make them sign a license agreement. So their contract is going to be part of the merchant agreement with the publisher, because they're paying the publisher directly. But, I get the email that I showed you before. The first thing I do is go and put all that information on my spreadsheet where I track all my sales. So I know all the information of who the buyer was, what they bought, when they bought it. And then I fill out that license agreement, send it to that buyer and say, hey, here's who I am. I'm fulfilling your order. You need to sign this and send it back to me. I'll have your plans over to you a few minutes after I receive that. So yes, I make everybody sign that license agreement before they receive their order. I have one sitting in my outbox right now, an order from Monday, and still haven't heard back from the buyer, signed my license agreement. The publisher has called and emailed them. I have called and texted and emailed them. And, apparently it's not a big deal to them because they haven't called to complain yet about why they haven't received their order. And that happens a few times a month. That most people, 10 minutes later, they've got their paperwork sent back to me because they want their plans. But some people, I don't know if they just don't get on their email often enough or what. But I at least make sure I have a license agreement. So if there's ever an issue like Dan mentioned of somebody buying a plan and then building it 5 times without the proper license, I have documentation that they signed knowing that they were buying a one-time use, and I haven't had any situation yet where I found out about one and had the opportunity to go after someone for, abusing that, but I have it in a folder so I can if it ever comes up.
Okay, so I lied. I do have one more question for you. And the reason I'm going to ask this question is because you do talk about on the group how you go to Spain and still fulfill your orders.
Oh, you're talking about
vacation.
Vicky's question.
Yes. So when an order comes in, what is the expected turnaround time to send the plan? What if you're on vacation?
Right. I saw Vicky's question and was hoping we had time because probably the only person on vacation more than I am is Dan. So on just a normal order, plan that's ordered as is, the publishers want you to have that out within a day, and I try to get them out the same day as long as people will, fill out that license agreement and send it back to me. I can have them out quickly. If you're getting something, the right reading reverse or, a crawl space or whatever, they want you to get those out within a few days, Now, if buyers also have the option to request custom modifications. So like, for instance, yesterday I had a sale come in. He wanted to change the roof line. He wanted to change gables to hips, and he wanted to make a handful of changes. When those come in, they come in as a modification request quote. So you'll get an email from the publisher. This buyer wants this plan with this list of changes. Please provide a cost and a time frame. And, if I'm on vacation, I'm telling people, okay, I'm out of town. I won't be able to touch it till next week. And then I'll need this much time. Now, I'm a little nuts. So when I go to Spain, which is frequent, I'm going next month again. I take my laptop with me because, of course, I don't speak Spanish and I'm sitting there with my wife's family. I can work while I'm in Spain, and I do frequently. So I usually quote a little bit more time. If I was home and said I can do that in 2 or 3 days, if I'm in Spain, I'm telling them 5 to 7 days because I'm not going to skip going out and eating churros to work on someone's changes. But I always have my laptop with me, so working remotely somewhere is pretty easy for me.
Well, that's good. All right. So we're pretty much at the end of this. It's been close to an hour. I want to thank everybody for coming and for asking questions. I especially want to thank Sam. Sam, thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this for nothing to help other people do what you do and possibly make this a second income that they can have. I want to thank Dan for showing up on this one and answering some of the questions before his webinar shows up. And I also want to invite everybody to the second part of this webinar where Dan shares his, where he'll be getting other questions, and that one may be longer, maybe shorter. I'm not sure, but come with questions, and we'll be doing this. We are recording this. So I will be editing this and recording it. If your question was not answered, feel free to ask it on the group because trust me, Sam is on there all the time. He may be on there more than I am actually. So, and I know that he will answer your questions rather quickly and give it a lot of thought. So, you may get teased if you're like the third person to ask the question, but you know what? He'll still answer the question. So we will often send you to the guides if we know that the question's been answered there. So other than that, I think we're good. I appreciate everybody from coming on. And Sam, if you can be the last person, because I need to be able to stop this and for the recording, the last person to leave. But I guess at this point, if everybody can start heading on out. We are done, and the next one starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Thanks, Dennis, for doing this, and Sam.
You're welcome. Thank you,
Hey,
everyone.
this was a lot of fun. And if there's, future events we can do, I'm sure between Dan and I, we could invite some publishers to come and talk about things that they would like to see. And I'm sure publishers would love some introductions to some more talented designers.
Yeah, and if anybody looks in the chat, which I'm going to try to keep that as a file, there is a engineer in there that told you, Sam, that he is licensed in Utah and does use SoftPlan. So.
Very good.
And that would be Royal, and I don't think it's Mortier, which he is on the group, and he has participated in some of the discussions on there as well. So, but that's it. So, and all of a sudden, I got a lot of people thanking you, Sam.
Well, I'm pretty sure, just to please Robert, I don't think I picked my nose once.
No, it was really good. You did well.
Right. I tried really hard.
Take care, guys. See you soon.
Thank you.